Hey everybody, hope you guys can hear me. And I am glad you're all here tonight. I had the actions of yesterday completely threw my my topic, I should say, into disarray tonight. I had every intent to talk about how the government shutdown would affect us high pointers. And hey, they managed to get it all together and punt the ball for 45 days. So I suppose we could still talk about the government shutdown, but we're going to have to wait till November 2nd. Maybe we won't have to talk about it at all, which would be great, because as a person in the civil service, it tends to throw a wrench into things. Anyway, I'm glad you're all here. Let's see who's on. Bill, hello, how you doing? Pretzel, hi, doing all right. Eric, nice to see you. Ron Man, good evening as well. By the way, I liked your video of the Home Alone house, and shoot, why am I forgetting the other one? I can't recall, but yes, it was fun. I was really hoping for so surprisingly, the shutdown was going to throw a huge wrench into things for me. Groundhog Day, yes, great movie, fun movie. We had carryover funding until next Tuesday, which was would have been our drop dead date for VA Office of Information Technology. So, but unfortunately, you still get drill weekend. I'm sorry, Eric. I will say this: I loved my time in the Guard. I was in the Wisconsin Army National Guard as a 12B combat engineer type a long time ago. Long time ago. Man, that can't be right. I guess that is right. In November, it'll have been 20 years since I got out of the Guard. But I always found the 6 years I did that drill weekend always seemed to fall on the most inopportune weekend. Like you couldn't plan it better. If somebody was planning some big party or, some event, it always just seemed to be, we got drill. So I don't miss that particular element. I do miss the camaraderie of it all. I still have some friends of mine from my Guard days and my Marine Corps days. But yeah, there are certain things that I don't miss. Every so often when I find I'm missing my time in the service, my brother, who's still in, is more than happy to tell me a story after 20-year career of being in on, why it was a smart decision to get out or to remind me of the decision of getting out. But that's way off topic. So tonight's drink is Rusty Rail Brewing. We are in October now, folks. And so it is pumpkin season now. I'm a big fan of pumpkin beers. This one is Pumpkin Swirl by Rusty Rail Brewing. It's a pumpkin spice roll ale. I would say the spice is a little bit too much for what I would like. I like my pumpkin beers to be more pumpkin forward. I've probably mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. The pumpkin, I shouldn't say most people, pumpkin beers are hit and miss for folks. And I will gladly remind folks, though, that it is the most American of beer styles. Pumpkin ales were started in colonial America, because one thing was true: we've always enjoyed our beer in this country in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah. So, thanks, Pretzel. Like I said, it's a lifetime ago. But yeah, my service days were. I'm glad I did the time I did, and I'm glad I continue to serve in the civil service. So, yeah. So, like I said, all my plans to talk about how the shutdown would affect us is up now. Uh, got a wrench thrown into it, so we'll wait till November if it does happen, and we'll drive on. Earlier question: the 10 tears you've done, what would you say the easiest? Arizona, easiest, hands down. Um, Arizona, it was. I mentioned it the last time we spoke, but it's worth sharing again. It was cool to go back and redo it after 7 years and doing a bunch of other Western elevation peaks, and to compare it after, because I started with Arizona. Like, Arizona was going to be my first big Western peak. It was gonna, give us a taste of what things would be like. And we made a lot of mistakes in 2016. Mainly, me and my buddy Brett, who was actually in the service with me, thinking we were still soldiers in our 20s and we could go tie one on and then go, do crazy physical feats. And that was not the case. We had more than a few conversations as we were going up of whether we were suffering from just a really bad hangover or if it was a smattering of altitude sickness. So, but this last time we went up, Humphreys is by far and away, if people are thinking of a Western peak they want to do first, that'd be the one I'd recommend. Through and through, you get a lot of fun stuff with Humphreys. You get a real nice combination of a hike through the woods. You get some of that exposure. You get the great views in the saddle. You get the great views on the peak. And it's not exactly the easiest hike, like for high points, but definitely the easiest for Western ones. If you were going to lump Guadalupe Peak in there, I know that's 80, that's 1,000 and some change less. 8749. That's by far the easiest of the bigger ones. But yeah, it does. It has several, or it has one ammo can sitting there with several notebooks in it. They probably need to be collected. I think it has a benchmark as well, though I didn't take a picture this time. I have a picture. I want to say I have a picture from the first time we were up there. So, since the shutdown's not happening, original plans are now in effect. And this time next Sunday, I will hopefully be wrapping up a day of shooting B-roll in Oregon for Mount Hood, which is pretty exciting. Since travel will not be canceled for us, I get to go out to my first live conference since 2019, which is sort of crazy to think about, that it's been 4.5 years. No, that can't be right. Yeah, I guess 3.5 years since I've actually done anything in person, like a presentation in person with an audience right there. So, but the conference is just an excuse for me to run away for some hours and get photos, drone footage, video of Mount Hood, and start laying out some of the stuff that we want to film in May, next year, May of 2024, when we actually go out there to climb it and do the remainder of the episode. So it's a cool opportunity, I think, for me to scout ahead a bit and find some good leads, find some good places to potentially shoot, just get good footage. Because always use more B-roll and, enjoy a pint or two in Portland, time permitting, and along the way give a speech presentation on business relationship management. So it's a completely different thing than what I would love to give speeches about, which would be high pointing or history or things like that. So yeah, that was all in jeopardy on Friday. I thought for sure that was not going to happen. And surprisingly, we pulled it together. CTOS, good evening to you as well. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So I'm excited. It's been a couple of years since I've been in Portland. I think the last time was 2017. Yeah, 2017. But we did spend a lot of time in Portland. We actually went down to Bend and photographed the National Snowshoe Championships at Mount Bachelor down there, which was pretty fun. Bend was cool. Wish I would have had more time, but we were working an assignment, and we spent most of our time up on the ski area working. So, but we spent enough time in Bend to be able to visit day shoots and stuff like that. So that was cool. But I'm looking forward to Portland. It's been Portland proper the last time I really visited, like rambled around Portland, would have been 2012. The Classic Tetris World Championship is in Portland too. That sounds cool. I was explaining to my son Magnus the how we used to play Tetris. Like this whole story, he knows what Tetris is, because Tetris is still played to this day, and it's still a lot of fun. But I was explaining to him how we used to play Tetris. We had it on was it not the 5 1/4, but the 3.5-inch floppy disk, and we had, in high school, we went to the computer lab to boot it up on an Apple IIgs to play, or was it? Yeah, I think it was 2GS, to play Tetris. And like that whole conversation it started off with a simple sentence of, yeah, I remember in high school we'd go to the computer lab and boot it up on the computers. And that was so alien to him of, like, what? What's a computer lab? What was, like, how, what's a floppy disk? And it was a rather eye-opening conversation, and it got me to thinking a little bit about high-pointing things in general. As we get into the off season, I'm starting to, lay out things for this continuing, stuff for over the winter and other projects. And one of the things I've been debating or trying to work my head around is, what does the sport look like for folks in 20 years? What does this sport look like for people in 30 years? One of the things I've been working on high point wise is a documentary called The Wandering Telegrapher. And that goes back to Arthur Harmon Marshall, A.H. Marshall. First guy to ever complete all 48 at the time states. Did it in 46. Yeah, it is impressive. We went from floppy disks to micro SD storing gigabits in less than 20 years, 15 years. And it's so reminiscent to me of, it's the same sort of thing. If you think about it, from the 50s till now, it's the same thing with aviation. It's from 1903, Wright brothers, to putting a man on the moon 66 years later. Like you're talking about that same sort of revolution. It's not. I mean, how it changed everything. And Cody, hello, brother of mine. Just for everybody in the person I was mentioning earlier, he's here. That's my brother Cody. Thanks for being here, buddy. So, but yeah. So I was thinking, what does high pointing look like in the future? Like from Marshall, when he was doing the bulk of his high pointing adventures in the 1920s, 30s, he traveled by rail. That's how he got across the country. That's how he visited these places. And it was a completely different world then. There was no interstate. Marshall would pass away before such a thing like the interstate would be in place. Different technology, how he was going up these peaks and finding the way was different than what we use today. GPS, satellite imagery, accurate measurement. You see a lot of Marshall's list. If you look, it's a fascinating time capsule because it really shows a lot of the old, before they had accurate updated stuff. So for Wisconsin, you get Rib Hill, which we call now Rib Mountain, instead of Timms Hill, because at the time that was considered the highest point. You get several locations in Arkansas. In fact, Marshall goes back to basically double check. You get a different location in Nebraska. I think it's the highest point in Banner County instead of the current place, because they hadn't gone out there yet with that World War I altimeter and found the accurate measurement. So it's a really interesting thing, and it gets me to wonder, like, all right, we're 100 years now from when he was doing, some of his adventures. What does it look like for us? What's the sport going to look like in the future? And it's just a fun little thing to try to think through. And I don't know, maybe there's something I'll do there. Maybe it's a dead end, but it's definitely a fun little mind puzzle. So let's see. Anyone been to any conventions besides me? Full confession, I haven't. And I really, part of me is like, it hasn't been because the locations weren't convenient. I mean, they had one in Pennsylvania since I've been here, and I did not go. But I don't think I was actually around for that. I think we were on a family vacation when they held that. The same with Georgia, and the same with trying to think. Well, Boundary Peak was the one we were going to go do Boundary, and then the wheels fell off, so to speak, and everything got upended. So, yeah, nothing but I need to go. Hopefully, I can meet someone who can hike Gannett and Granite with me. Yeah, Eric, there's the 50 states Facebook group. You might be able to find somebody there, at least a recommendation. Gannett and Granite are both 25 problems for me. So, do you think you'll do? Yeah, I actually want to do the South Dakota one this year. I've wanted to go back and refilm that. I've mentioned that before. And I'd like to go and meet people at the convention. I think it'd be cool. I'd like to talk to, I've, you know, all there. I keep getting overtaken by events, so I'm reticent to mention it. But I've always sort of wanted to interview my fellow high pointers. Um, it's one of the skills I have from my other job is interviewing folks and capturing it. I'd like to film it and get some different perspective. And that would be a good place to bag a bunch, talk to some of the old hands, talk to some of the new folks. I think we are at a weird cusp as a sport where there's a lot of interest, but is there a lot of interest in the club? I don't know. There's definitely a lot of interest in the sport. Social media has allowed a proliferation of this. It's allowed for people of like mind to find, areas like this and explore the space. And high pointing's always been very welcoming, so it's an easy space to get involved with and feel like you're part of something. But does that part of something go that step further to a formal sort of commitment? I mean, the reason I say that is even when I signed up paid my dues for membership for the club, I literally stated, I did my Beyonce and put a ring on it. That convention will probably bring in some members of that popular black communities surrounding national sites. Yeah, I mean, Black Elk Peak is a great hike. It's one of my favorites. I like that area a lot. You have, depending on how much driving you want to do, you could technically, do some of the Great Plains, do North Dakota. If you were really feeling ambitious, potentially do Elbert. So, or depending on your direction of travel, you pick up others too. I remember when we left Rapid City to go back to the Twin Cities, we took I-80, not I-80, what was it, 90? I-90, right across South Dakota. We picked up the Tri-Point, the South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota Tri-Point. And that's not actually that far away from Hawkeye Point either, but that was all a day. It might be, but you're talking about a person who, when it comes to driving, my area of acceptable driving is probably a lot bigger than a lot of folks. For me, an acceptable day drive is, if I can get there in about 17 hours or less, that's acceptable. I mean, you're talking to the same person who did Louisiana, Nashville to Driscoll Mountain and back in a day. But at the same time, Pretzel, if you're going to go out there for a couple days, if you extended a couple, it doesn't become an outrageous sort of thing. Be like, all right, I do this, and then spend a day or two, you head out, and you might want to, if you take the full week. So 500 miles is easy. But yeah, other things coming up in October besides grabbing all that B-roll footage for Hood is going back to Campbell Hill, Ohio, the tail end. One of my best friends is getting married in Wisconsin at the tail end of October. and I have every intent of driving from Philly back to Wisconsin, and then I'll stop and along the way and refilm Campbell Hill. I probably will break it. I'll probably stop there twice. Go out there, do on the way there, stop, grab stuff. On the way back, stop again, do some drone footage, other things like that, and then see how that goes. So, a few years back, I did a trip to Dakota to stay at High Point National Parks. Head back to Teddy Roosevelt, High Point and Teddy Roosevelt. We stopped at Teddy Roosevelt. We filmed stuff there for the North Dakota episode. I like that park a lot. We didn't bag the High Point in the national park. I think when I get back to doing North Dakota again, because that's another one that I want to redo, I think that might be the additional footage would be bagging that the TR National Park High Point as well, and along the way visit there's two other places I wanted to capture. We didn't have time. One was the tallest structure. I believe it's the tallest structure in the United States. It's that antenna. It's over on the eastern side. And then also stopping in, is it Rugby, North Dakota? That's the center point of, I think it's Rugby, North Dakota. It's the center point of the North American continent. So that would be stuff I'd want to add in. Because if you're going to go to North Dakota, you better make it worthwhile for folks. So give them some options. And then there's also in South Dakota, like when I redo that, I want to go back to, I'll probably say it wrong, but Belfort. It's spelled in the French way, so I want to say Belfort for the center point of the 50 states. So I think South Dakota has another claim to fame too, and it's a point of isolation. But I'd have to go back to my notes. I have it written down somewhere. So what about you guys? How was your September? Anybody got any good high pointing adventures? I see Eric, you're leaving for Arvin on Wednesday, second attempt. Take my wife's Nissan Rogue. Hopefully it does better than you should be okay. I got up there in a Chrysler Pacifica minivan back in August, and it was raining, so got up there no problem. Mount Washington via Huntington Ravine. Nice job. Terrible ideas. Great job. One of the people I follow on YouTube, Beer in Beautiful Places, she just posted her Mount Washington part of the AT that she is currently hiking. She posts content. She's already, she's got to be close to finishing now, because she posts content about a week or two after. So I'm planning to go to Sassafras Mountain in South Carolina soon. Beautiful time for it. CTOS, beautiful time for it. I like the fall in the Carolinas, is always enjoyable. I went to the Michigan Convention for the High Point. I hitched a ride with some other High Pointers. Not a bad idea. My big advice to folks doing the Michigan High Point is get to Zion Lutheran, man. Get to that church, and then follow those blue signs. They will take you to the top. It's slow and steady sometimes, because it's easy to get turned around on those. It's easy to get turned around on those logging roads out there, but the blue signs are there, and then yeah, so we'll try to get over to Fort Reno Park. That's why I love you, buddy. Um, when you do it, Cody, you'll have to give me a call. I am proud to say one of my great winter ascents was the DC High Point. So you can't miss it. It is lost. In fact, on the way, we had no problem going back up, though clearly my mind, from when I first went up in 2016, 7 years before, there were parts where I'm like, wait a second, this is not quite how I remember it, but, trusted the blue signs, and they got me up there. I will say we did have Google Maps going at the time, and it was more accurate than it had been in the past, but I would not rely on it for my primary source. But it did, if you go over on Skaney Road to Zion Lutheran and then come down that way, head south, that was actually relatively accurate. If you're looking for, by the way, if you're looking for a quick little stop on the way out, once you're done with it, there is a place called, was it Silver Falls? It's a small little park. It's on the way back to Lance, or Lance, or however they. I'm mispronouncing it. I know I am. And it was really pretty. It's nothing big, nothing spectacular, no crazy hikes, but it was just a fun, pretty little stop, and got some good pictures there. So let's see. Flights in our car are $600 to $700. Why are they so expensive? Actually, that price point really doesn't surprise me. I mean, you're not flying into one of the most popular places. Yeah, like I said, if you're gonna do, I had decent luck with it as a secondary thing, but follow those blue signs and just take your time. One of the things that is super helpful to do is the roads. Trying to think. We had an atlas in 2016, but I want to say the directions. I will say the that old Michigan episode I did actually is pretty good with laying it out on how to get out there. And I even think in the description, it's pretty solid. So, shameless plug. Yeah. Well, tell your wife I appreciate the vote of confidence. Because you're right, Eric. Those logging roads out there disappear. When we went out there, the very first time I went out there in 2014, me, my friend Dan, and my friend Davey, we were in a Nissan Murano, and we were following Google at the time, and it took us in the middle of nowhere. Like, we literally ran out of road. Like, we got on these crazy logging roads, and they just got rougher and rougher, and before we know it, we were literally in like a thicket. Like there was no road left. Like it was gone. Um, so, yes. So, let's see. I did Mount Adams by King Ravine. Also a terrible idea. Don't sell yourself short. You got great terrible ideas. You get good memories out of those stuff. So, yeah, I think it was called Dynamite or something. It came in. Um, it doesn't come in from the church. This came in a different way, and that's I tell anybody trying to do Auburn, you have to start. Your starting point's at Zion Lutheran. You have to start there, at that church. What do I use for info about high points? If I want trip reports, I usually use Summit Post and Peak Bagger if I want trip reports. I will dabble a bit with All Trails. There's some decent little like impromptu write-ups there. But mainly, like that's such a huge question. Like when I'm really digging into history about high points, deep Google searches. I've contacted historical society, county historical societies, state historical societies. I've go to newspaper.com. I've gone to Library of Congress, dig through maps. Like this is one thing I will say where my history degree from the University of Wisconsin La Crosse really paid huge dividends is finding and researching and digging deep into archives. One of my favorite things to do when I'm researching a peak is to read old news articles about it. And really, like, part of where I found the name, the original name for Timms Hill was actually from a paper that actually existed when I was a kid called the Rib Lake Herald. And it's gone now. But I was able to find those scans, those images, and it's awesome. I love that stuff. Yes, still working on Rooftops, the solar system. Pluto I've got everything finished for it. It's just a matter of organizing it and getting the edit done. The video, the next thing coming out in the next, hopefully, day or two is the 10-year video essay. September for me was a wild and crazy month. This was after Arizona. So the last couple of weeks have been interesting, to say the least. But we're not going to dive into that. Let's just say everything right now is stable and solid, and we're doing okay. So, but it was a pretty wild month. So things got focus wasn't on getting things done for rooftop stuff, but I'm back on track. And actually, one of the things I'm looking forward to about going to Portland is it will get me a couple evenings where I can focus and not have a million distractions, and I'll be able to churn some stuff out. For national parks, I'm going a bit farther for the multi-state parks. Oh, that's awesome. That's a cool goal for the high point and the low point. That's right, Cody. Rib Lake, the town that doubles in size in the winter. And state it's in. That's cool. You'll have some ambitious. There's some ambitious peaks in the national park ones. I think it's safe to say then if you were going pound for pound, I think the national park high points are actually harder, much harder than the state high points. Mount Fairweather, that's the one, right? How many national parks are multi-state? Yellowstone for sure. I'd have to look. Oh, Smoky Mountains for sure too. Except Smoky Mountains, Clingman's Dome actually, because the border cuts right across the very top. You don't have to. You just literally step across the line for that particular one. Yeah, Death Valley. There's probably more. Is Guadalupe Mountains National Park? That might be. I'd have to look on that one. That would require some research. All right, folks. It is 9/11. This always goes by faster. Oh, is only in Texas. Okay, cool. Well, I know the Guadalupe Mountains run up through New Mexico, and then there's Carlsbad Caverns, which is a national park on the far end of that range to the northeast. So, good point. Good catch. All right. On that note, thanks everybody for being here. I'm going to wrap this one up. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And October is hopefully it'll be great for you. Eric, safe travels for your visit to Michigan, and I hope you find success on Mount Arvin. So, and then if you're looking for good food, Hilltop is worth checking out in Lance. And if for some reason Hilltop's not open, there is a cafe down on sort of the main street, something Owl. That was pretty decent. So, all right, guys, thanks for being here. I'll see you all again in 2 weeks. Y'all awesome. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Have a good night.